And if you vote yes on Initiative 2117 to repeal the CCA, the amount of money that you will save repealing the CCA will make the $200 credit, the bribe that they're trying to give you before the election, look just like pennies, like nothing. This segment is brought to you by Eastside Weight Loss Clinic. I'm down 37 pounds on the program, and I lost most of that in just 2 months. Do what I did and what so many other undivided viewers have done. Schedule your free 15-minute consultation today at eastsideweightlossclinic.com. So don't let the bribe distract you from the bigger picture. Governor Jay Inslee has lied about the CCA. He claimed it wouldn't raise gas prices, it wouldn't raise energy prices, and as a result, food prices. It did. He knows that. When he was caught red-handed, he blamed it on pipeline maintenance. That's why gas prices are going up. When people didn't buy that, what did he blame it on? The greed of the gas and oil companies. When people didn't buy that, he said, well, repealing it via initiative might not lower gas prices anyway. And when it became clear that no one was buying this, that the initiative to repeal the CCA is incredibly popular among Republicans, independents, and Democrats alike, the governor trotted out a $200 bribe, just hoping that he would convince enough voters, if you don't repeal the CCA, we're going to keep the money coming, even though they have made no plans to give you anything other than a one-time $200 credit on your energy bills just before the November election. Do not fall for it. So after this came out yesterday, we, of course, had to get in touch with our friend Todd Meyers at the Washington Policy Center, who specializes in climate-related issues. There were a couple issues on the docket we wanted to discuss, but of course we had to start with this conversation about what is, make no mistake, a bribe. Todd Meyers, welcome back to Undivided.
Always nice to be with you.
Yeah, so we've discussed the $200 bribes. Now they're starting to come to PSE customers. I mean, I think they're bribes. Inslee is adamant that this is absolutely not a bribe. But let's just look at it by the numbers. So if you've got some of these households getting a $200 credit, does that make up for the costs that they've incurred as part of the Climate Commitment Act?
Well, first off, there was no talk of even doing rebates until Initiative 2117 was on the ballot. So the fact that he's doing these all of a sudden in an election year, clearly it's what's intended. He's intended to try to influence people's vote. But the question is, okay, so $200, what does that get you? Well, based on the average amount of natural gas people use and the average amount of gasoline people use for a two-car family, average family, they paid last year about $631 extra just because of the CO2 tax. Now, okay, that's an average, but let's say low income. Low income with one car and paying about 60%, using about 60% of natural gas, they paid $333. So $200 doesn't even come close to covering the additional costs that people paid in 2023. And of course, all the projections are that prices will go up next year. They've gone down a little bit this year because the initiative is on the ballot. But if the initiative fails and we keep it, prices will go up beyond what they were in 2023.
And there's no indication that these bribes, credits, are going to be some sort of like yearly thing.
No, in fact, the budget for the money from this tax has been budgeted out many years in some cases. In some cases, it's shorter term, but in many cases, it's out. This is a one-year thing. There is no plan for next year to give these sorts of credits or rebates. In the past, I actually supported a revenue neutral approach where you would take the money and you would rebate it back. The governor rejected that. So it's clearly he's doing this in an election year ploy.
Have you seen the clip of him with Chris Daniels?
I have not.
Well, you should watch it. I'll tell you, I watched it and I'm just more pissed off than ever about it. He has the audacity after the lies that he told, promising people for years it wouldn't increase gas prices. When that didn't work, blaming gas and oil companies. Now he is saying that it is greedy and horrible, like unconscionable for people who support the initiative to repeal the CCA to want to take away these $200 credits from working class families.
Well, he should have told himself that last year because he didn't even offer these last year. He's only offered them this year. And he should have made sure that they would continue in the future. He's the one taking them away. So, look in the mirror first. But, the notion that you're greedy because you're paying $600 extra a year, but you're not going to, give $200 back. I mean, there's a term for this. It's called bribing people with their own money. And I think people are smart enough to see through it.
What do you think it is for Inslee? Just, I know you're not like super into being partisan, but humor me. I mean, is this his genuine concern for the environment? Is it a concern for his legacy, for his future career prospects once he leaves the governor's office? What do you think is driving that level of, frankly, dishonesty?
People often say follow the money. I don't like that because a lot of people do things in politics, public policy, where they make less money or where the money would be better. People, from time to time, people accuse me of taking the money. And I tell them being a conservative environmentalist in Washington state is about the dumbest way to make money that you could think of. So I don't believe this is about money. I don't think it's about future job prospects. I think he truly believes this. I think he believes he's doing the right thing. But I also think that politicians, right, they want to feel good about themselves. And so once your self-image, once your sense of self-worth is wrapped up in something, then, really all bets are off in terms of the rhetoric and commitment and things like that. And I just think he wants to be a climate crusader. That's how he sees himself. And by God, he's going to do what he needs to do to be a climate crusader.
Well, let's talk about this climate crusade and who it's really helping and who it's really hurting. There have been a couple headlines, one of them out of the city of Seattle, where they're basically saying, like, look, the projections for usage of electricity as the state pushes this electrification, they're far outpacing our expectations. We might not have the supply. So they're warning that there's going to be an uptick in energy rates. That can't come as a surprise to you.
No, that's the intent, right? Again, it's not. People say, well, may or may not increase energy rates or gas or whatever else. No, that's the intent. They're trying to get people off of fossil fuels. So, of course, that's going to happen.
Well, you also were mentioning to me before we started, when we look at people getting hit hard, I mean, I really think that a lot of the climate policy has been pushed on the backs of the working class, like what you're seeing with the CCA and at the gas pump and, for City Light customers who are going to see their electric rates start to go up. You were mentioning, too, with electric vehicles, it's like, well, go out and buy an electric vehicle. Well, I can't. They're expensive. Okay, we'll give you a subsidy, but you've sort of tracked where some of those subsidies are going.
Well, right. So the legislature has their own auditing agency called JLARC, and they just put out a report looking at what they call alternative fuel vehicles, which is essentially electric vehicles. And what they found is that 70% of the subsidies go to census tracts where people make more than average. Well, that shouldn't surprise. I mean, we've done our own analysis in the past and found that it's, very high percentage of the subsidies are going to wealthy people because that's who can afford these cars. And even when they say, oh, well, here we have subsidies for lower income people, well, lower income people can't buy even a Nissan Leaf because the Nissan Leaf is so much more expensive than the gas powered alternative. So it shouldn't surprise us.
Yeah.
Energy costs are aggressive. They are harder. Low income people have a harder time avoiding energy costs than high income people. And then we turn around and use the taxes that they pay and subsidize the wealthy. It's really a bad situation. And it just shows how I think disingenuous a lot of the talk about, lack of equity and concern about inequality is, because when they want something, they ignore all of that. And they will tax the poor and subsidize the rich, as they're doing with this case.
Yeah, so here you have, working class people. They're really being stuck with the price tag of all of this. And then they're supposed to be grateful when they get a few dollars given back to them of their own money. And then there was this article that came out that just seems like it's like, oh, you're expected to follow my climate agenda and all of that, even if it is breaking your budget. And then there's this news of Inslee vetoing a study about how these big data centers, how much power they're using. So it seems weird that Inslee would veto a study about power usage. So can you explain to me why this is a big deal?
Well, I mean, it's a big deal for a whole range of reasons. One, the governor has also vetoed studies in the past on looking at total electricity demand in the future to try to figure out how we're going to accommodate electric vehicles and heat pumps and all these things. And now data centers, which are run by Microsoft and Google and Amazon, right? I mean, so I just think it shows the corruption of the system. I don't like to say that, but it really is corrupt when you have the people who get the preferences or the people who have the lobbyists. And the people who don't have the lobbyists, they're the ones who pay the prices. And this is a perfect example of where if you have good lobbyists, you can say, no, don't look at this. The governor knows that data centers use a lot of electricity. I don't have a problem with that. I think, right, that's great. We want Microsoft, we want Amazon to succeed, we want all these folks to succeed. But simply saying we're not even going to look at that is just shows that this is more about politics than actually trying to do what's best for the environment and dealing with the stresses. And the reality is we can't ignore the problem. We have to supply that electricity. And if we don't think about it and plan for it, it's going to drive costs up and it's going to increase the risk of blackouts.
Yeah, it seems insane to me that there wouldn't be, you know, same with the efforts to move away from natural gas. Okay, there hasn't been a concerted effort to look at, okay, what's feasible here? How quickly could we do that? What does the grid look like? Can we support? Like, nobody wants to even have that difficult conversation. They're kind of in this dreamland of what can be, you know, what they would like to do, but absent, like completely disconnected from reality.
Yeah, but while we're vetoing a study of, the impact of data centers, we are spending millions and millions of dollars to assume on studies that assume that the Snake River dams are torn down, which is about 8% of our total electricity generation. So, I mean, it's absurd. It is very ad hoc. It's based on the politics. It's based on what the political pressures are, not on sort of what's the best vision for how we supply electricity to the people of the state.
But surely, for all those reasons, I mean, there have to be well-intentioned environmentalists on the left who are starting to see that and wake up to that. Are there not?
I think, self-delusion is powerful. I think if you want something, and we see this on the left and the right, people believe, it will work out. And let's face it, we're a wealthy state and a wealthy country. We do a lot of things that are probably bad policies, but we can absorb the costs. And I think that that mindset leads to sort of frivolous decision making, where you can make decisions that frankly don't make a lot of sense and that have a lot of costs. And you can say, oh, but we figured it out in the past. We'll figure it out in the future, and we're doing the right thing. And I think that when you talk with legislators, I get a lot of that. I talked with one legislator who's very smart, university professor, knows what she's talking about. And I asked her about a climate issue, and she says, well, I was just convinced that this is the right thing to do. And I said, well, tell me, like, what convinced
Yeah.
you? And we were exchanging messages back and forth, and she just stopped. Because at the end of the day, there wasn't really a convincing argument. There wasn't a tangible argument. It was she felt it was the right thing to do, and so she was going to do it. And I think a lot of politicians make those sort of moral compromises, assuming that it will all work out.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to all work out for the people who can't afford to see it go down that path. So, Todd Meyers, we appreciate your time and your insight as always.
Nice to chat with you.
Todd Meyers, the Washington Policy Center, always a wealth of knowledge. I just got to play it one more time, can I? The cut that enraged me into curse-laden beginning of our show yesterday. With Jay Inslee has the audacity to lie over and over about the CCA raising gas prices, throws this piddly $200 credit at the feet of Washingtonians, hoping it'll bribe them to vote against the initiative to repeal the CCA in November. And then he has the audacity to say this to Chris Daniels at Como News.
Are you trying to bribe voters with this?
No, they're trying to take away $200 from these families. Who wants to take away $200 credit from a family to help them with their costs of these low-income folks? That's reprehensible. You know what else? It's weird.
Yeah, it's us that's reprehensible and weird. We're the ones trying to bankrupt working class families by telling them that what you're doing is a bribe, and you're actually behind the scenes taking much, much more than $200 from them, and the $200 is their own money that they already gave to you in the first place. Get a grip. Down